their own field. The Rome Talks will be taken to the stage well, a person like Francesco Rutelli, we're going to meet and discover today, but also artists, head managers, and journalists. So all people that are bringing our culture still very at the top, I would say, of the edge of the quality of Italy. So it's important for you while you're here to have the opportunity of being familiar with this. So for us, it's an opportunity for us to share with you, but also for you, to come in contact with this series of talks. So I'm grateful to Francesco Bedeschi for this opportunity and to Consuelo Lollobrigida, who assisted me very much in the selection of the speakers. And I'm very grateful to our first speaker, Francesco Rutelli. I will leave then the stage to Consuelo to introduce him specifically, but I can just say that for Rome, Francesco Rutelli really marked a very important area for our city. So when I was your age, he was our mayor, and Rome was a great city to live in. Still it is, obviously, but it was for us, it was very important to introduce our, this series with such an important speaker. So Consuelo, please get into the details of our guest, background, and I leave the stage to you.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Francesco. Thank you, dear students, to be here today to inaugurate the series of our Tom Talks for Spring 2024. Yes, I have just to say what my colleagues have said. So we are very proud and happy to have here today Mr. Rutelli, Francesco Rutelli, who has been a very important and leading political personality in our country, but not only in our country, because he has a really international profile. Well, as a mayor of Rome, I want to just highlight very briefly what he has done. He was elected in 1993 with over 53% rates, and then he was re-elected in 1997 with over 60% rate. So you can imagine it was a kind of very high consensus, because he really made a lot of changes. As Laura was saying, he changed the city. So the city you are living today, it is pretty much thanks to Mr. Rutelli. We want to highlight that, for instance, he renovated the Capitol Hill. Some students, we went to the Capitol Line museums. I told you that Marcus Aurelius was moved from the square into the museums, and that was during Francesco Rutelli mandate. And what else? He opened the Scuderia del Quirinale, a very important exhibition places. He launched the project of 100 squares, which included the renovation of People's Square, the Spanish Steps, and the Chiesa Nuova, so the church we have right next to our school, and the Pantheon. And some of the most important things, which really are now landmarks in our city. So the auditorium, the very important auditorium by Renzo Piano, and the Era Pacais, I'm sorry for this horrible English pronunciation, Francesco di Era Pacais, the Altar of Peace, the Era Pacis, and the Museum of Contemporary Art called the Macro. He did all these things when he was as mayor of Rome. As minister, vice prime minister, minister of culture, he made the reform of the code of the beni culturali, of the cultural heritage of Italy. He started the cooperation with some American museums, such as the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston, the Getty Museums in LA, and the Princeton University Art Museums. And so for my students and honors college, Ludi d'Arte, I wanted to highlight that thanks to Mr. Rutelli, three important pieces, such as the Crater of Euphronius, the Viva Sabina's portrait, and the Venus of Morgantina, were repatriated. So just to tell you that we are really in front of a very leading and important intellectual and political personalities of our country. Last but not least, the reason why he's here today, and we will discuss together, I hope, the content of the last book he has recently written and published, Il Secolo Verde, in Italian, The Green Century. Some ideas to save the climate: history, propaganda, and reality. I will leave the stage to Mr. Rutelli, and please welcome him with a very enthusiastic yes.
So you wasted so much time in hearing about my biography that I will make it very short. But first of all, allow me to say I'm happy to be here, and it happens to me to explain as also as a former mayor of the city, but somebody who studied my city, wrote some books about Rome. The last one is named upon Roma Camminando, meaning walking around Rome with a couple of dozen travels and not so well-known places, better places we do know very well, but we try not to look at where we are. I use often to say an audience, where are we? You know that you are in Palazzo Taverna, Monte Giordano, but it's absolutely amazing that Dante Alighieri is the number one in Italian poesia, letteratura, internationally recognized as such, beginning of 14th century. He writes in La Divina Commedia, maybe the most important work in Italian language, maybe the founding of Italian language. He writes, next year we will have a jubilee. Jubilee means an anniversary for the Catholic Church. So in front of in St. Peter, people will reach St. Peter Basilica and these places from many parts of the world. Jubileo happened to be made every 100 years, then 75, then 50, now every 25 years. But the very first one was in 1300. A pope decided, Bonifacius the Eighth decided to call a holy year, just a few weeks before it happened, to call people to come here, because in Terra Santa in the Middle East it was complicated to reach because of wars, somehow like it happens today. So he called people to Rome and he created this great event, 1300. I've been the mayor during the millennial jubilee of the year 2000. But what did happen? That too many people arrived. And they did not know how to cross the Tiber River behind this room. Because there was just one bridge, Ponte Elio, the bridge that today is called upon Ponte Sant'Angelo. When you cross the river, you see the castle. The castle was a fantastic place that was a tomb of Emperor Hadrian. And when you see an angel, l'arcangelo, he has come si dice? Sfodera una spada. No, sfoderare come si dice? But anyway, he takes away a sword to make war. No, it's the contrary. He puts his sword because the great illness ended. So the war ended. It's a sign of peace and not a sign of opening a new war. So that's Castel Sant'Angelo. But Dante writes, allow me to read it in Italian, of course, come i Roman per l'esercito molto, so many people in Rome, l'anno del giubileo, in the Jubilee year, su per lo ponte, on this bridge, hanno a passar la gente modo colto. They must cross in a correct way. Che dall'un lato tutti hanno la fronte verso il castello. From one side they look to the castle. Dall'altra sponda vanno verso il monte. The other side they go towards the monte. And the monte is here. This very place where you are. That's amazing. And why it is? Because everybody was fighting. Who's about? I come from Florence. I will be the first to cross the only bridge existing. There were people who fell into the Tiber River and dying in this complicated debate about who had to cross. I'm coming from France. I am the Prince of Naples. It's my turn. It's me. So they decided what happens to be today the modo colto, the right way to walk, keeping the right. This is the first time in history when people decide that you must keep the right side, this direction, and the right side from the castle to Il Monte, this very place where we are. It's incredible. It's an exception made for British. They are quiet. I don't like to be. So they go left, and it's complicated. I had a very nice meeting with a former chairman of the Knesset. I tell you the story. Then I will start with my conference. The chairman of Knesset, the Israeli, to explain how much they discuss. They don't want to reach an agreement. They said that the president of the republic decided to ask people to be more sure on the roads, to be more safe on the road. Is it better if we keep the right or the left, like in the UK? So after months of discussion, years of discussion, the president of the republic said, it's enough. Tell us an answer, because you can't maintain the situation this way. So going right, keeping right side or left side. Please give us some more time. So at the very end, the head of state said, no, before tomorrow morning, you must give me the answer. So they spent all night discussing if it was better. That's the president of the Israeli parliament who told me this, that it was better to keep right or left. At the very end, the decision was made. Mr. President, we decided that 50% of people keeps right and 50% keeps left, so that we have an agreement. So that's to explain how difficult it was to decide that you have to keep right, but it worked, and it's 7th century. It works this way by now. So I'm happy to be here. I've been asked by Consuelo and all of yours to open a conversation about green issues, climate, and I will try to give you some informations in order to have a free and open point of view. Before I will tell you that about my personal history, that when you will go left and you will take Corso Vittorio, 200, 300 meters, you will find some, I don't know how to say, chestnut trees. Hippocastani, beautiful trees in a small square, Piazza Sforza Cesarini. You get out, you cross, you reach Corso Vittorio, you go towards the center, and you will find a statue made by my great-grandfather, Mario Rutelli. It's an interesting statue representing an abbé, a priest, with a book about human rights. That is also to tell you how difficult is taking decision, not only for the direction, not only as in a joke, in a public debate in a parliament, but also in a city. When my great-grandfather wanted to inaugurate this work, that's beautiful. It's a bronze statue. You will see it walking. You will find it 5 minutes walk. Nobody wanted to inaugurate it. Why that? Because for people who loved the church, it was a decision to celebrate a priest loving human rights, who wrote, end of 18th century, a treaty on human rights. But why do they want to adopt a priest? They hate religion. And of course, the others was saying, but why do we build a monument for a priest? We don't like it. So the inauguration was continuously delayed, and the monument was inaugurated at midnight by the police to avoid clashes of civilization between the two positions. That happened to my great-grandfather for every monument he made, because we have great discussion today about which statues should stay, which statues should fall. I think all statues must stay, also to discuss about that, also to criticize that, also to put under debate the legacy of a personality, while of course building a public narrative about history is sometimes useful or easy to support an idea. I think that monuments, like anything in a public space, must be not only accepted but discussed and respected, even if it's my enemy, even if it's a totally distant history or narrative from mine. I think it's interesting, and the fact that more than 1 century ago, my great-grandfather had problems for any monument he built for the inauguration. Maybe the most important is the great fountain you will see in Piazza della Repubblica, la Fontana delle Naiadi, among the beautiful monuments in Rome, close to Termini Station. Nobody wanted to inaugurate it because the women were naked. It was 1901. Not so simple, but it was a modern monument, and the students went and inaugurated it, opening the palisade. How to say? Yes, that was surrounding the monument that nobody wanted to inaugurate. That today is still very, very, very popular in the city. So that is also the approach I will give to my speech about what is happening today in the world. And if I may have here the map, I am very grateful. You know that 2023 was the hottest year ever. It's not an opinion, it is a fact. And just to give you an example, I don't know how many people here knows Austria, country that's close to Italy. Only in Canada, this summer, a surface bigger than Austria burned, doesn't exist anymore. Because of fire, because of hottest temperature and consequences. So what I would like to say is that skepticism on climate issue is irresponsible, because 99% of international scientists agree that it is a scientific issue. The average temperature in 2023 was 1.5 degrees more than before the industrial era. It's not yet the average that, as you know, in the international negotiation has been defined like the threshold not to be bypassed, 1.5 centigrade degrees, no more, between 1.5 and 2 degrees, to avoid enormous consequences. So skepticism is irresponsible, but at the very same time, we need to involve people in a rational debate on climate, avoiding that it becomes a partisan issue, because we need convergence, different opinions to be brought to a solution. The solution is very difficult because the international community must reach an agreement with the unanimous consent by 200 countries. When you see that there is a COP conference like in Dubai this year, in Kazakhstan next year, and that there is an agreement on what to do about climate change, it is very difficult because it's a compromise, because everybody, the small island in the Pacific Ocean or the great countries like US, China, European Union, etc., must agree at the very same time. Developing countries with a great problem to manage, richer countries, countries where oil and gas are produced, and so on. So it's difficult, and the real danger, I think, is giving the idea that a solution is impossible because things are so complicated. So at the end of my friendly speech, I will give you some ideas or opportunities on how to try to reach solutions. And I asked for a map. Why that? Because today many people talk to you about Red Sea. You know that ships were bombed. American ships, and not only, by terrorist group located in Yemen and Houthi, in the context of the new complicated situation that was opened by the Gaza killing in October in Israel by Hamas. So what is happening is that my country must spend each month today around 200 billion euros more, because navigation is much more complicated due to this. But if you shift to another part of the world, Panama Channel, there is a completely different issue, which originated the fact that 40% of trade, sea trade, was cancelled. That is because the Panama Channel works through Gatun Lake. Gatun Lake is a ordinary lake. It's not sea. Its water must be used to allow to create the shift, the ship movement. And today there is much less water in Panama. Water is needed for ordinary people, for local populations, and so the amount of water needed to allow ships to cross the Panama Channel has been diverted also to local agricultural uses. So today, a great problem for navigation and for political and military reason, security reason in Red Sea, and a great problem in Panama Channel for environmental reason. Water is needed for local population needs, and again, the daily traffic is reduced around 40%. But if you go north, what's happening? What's changing? It's something absolutely astonishing. This is Greenland. You know that Greenland, give a look, Greenland is big like Europe, but it's under the eternal ice. Is ice in Greenland eternal? No. We have seen that there is a missing ice, and you know that the Arctic Ocean, in the Arctic Sea, ice minimum has shrunk by 35-40%. What that mean in political, geopolitical, commercial, trade consequences? Last August, the two first tankers, ships bringing oil, were authorized by Russia to navigate in the Arctic Sea. You will see, you could see if in my Il Secolo Verde, I do try to explain how many weeks the world will save reaching from Rotterdam, Netherlands, Busan, South Korea, rather than crossing, of course, from through here or through here. So less ice in the Arctic Sea is a strategic issue, is a military issue, is a trade issue, and it is an incredible perspective. You can imagine it's a few meters in many parts of Arctic Sea, the depth of the sea. And you can imagine if a ship bringing oil wrecks somewhere as an accident, like, I don't know, in Texas Gulf or in other part of the world, that could be a catastrophe with enormous consequences. And but it is strategy, it is economics, and it is geopolitics in a world that today is less cooperative than before. Europe, it's interesting. We are here, and In Europe today, you got many protests in the streets. Something also in Italy, but the main protests were in Netherlands by farmers, people working in agriculture. Netherlands, a party of farmers party became the most voted in a recent election there. Why that? Because the government ruled that methane from cattle, pigs, I don't explain where does it come from, must be cut so that Netherlands, having more pigs and cattle and than humans, around 15 million, must suppress some million to reach a target of reduction of methane. Great protest today in France, great protest by people from farmlands, let's say, for economic reason, saying that the regulation, the climate regulation, the green regulation is too strict, too negative, and that will bring to a failure. That happened in Germany also, where the regulation to mandate the use of heat pump was considered too expensive. And also in the elections, there were a very big result against that regulation. So the green transition is complicated. And if I tell you, you come from different part of United States, but if I ask you which are the counties in the US where the recent IRA incentives decided by the Biden administration were utilized, you will be surprised if I tell you that the relation between a county where people voted for Trump, a county where people voted for Biden, the relation is 3-1 in favor of people of counties where Trump was voted. Why that? Not necessarily for a ecological reason, but for business reason. That's quite interesting. I think some of yours come from Texas, maybe. In Texas, you perfectly know Texas is the world capital for oil and gas, oil. Today, Houston is one of the renewable hubs in the world. Why that? Because it's a business and because it's maybe you got in some, allow me to say, I won't absolutely will not make any political statement here. I try to give you some information and to make your opinion, your own opinion, in your future life and profession and work and studies, etc. Somebody says because there are less permits to obtain, less unions in the state. But anyway, the fact is what I told you, that surprisingly, the Biden bill that were very much opposed by Republicans and by Trump are more used in a part of the country where that votes for Trump, not for political or ideological reason. So in Europe wants to be a leader in the green transition, but many people are protesting because there are too many regulations. you must change your gas system at home, buying a heat pump. It costs more. You don't have incentives to do that. You must change your car. And here I will open another issue. Electric vehicles. You know that I came with my small electric car here. That's normal, of course. But you know that 80% of critical minerals necessary for batteries and the green transition are realized in China. If I ask you, you know, somehow Europe, you know, maybe Volvo cars. You heard that, Volvo? Where is it built? Who owns Volvo? Volvo is owned by China. And if I ask you where Elon Musk builds his Tesla, where is his biggest factory? That is in Shanghai. If 80% of critical minerals are processed in China, exactly like 80% of photovoltaic industry is Chinese in the world. So there are geopolitical tensions surrounding or directing the green transition. As I said, the important bill made by the Biden administration, the regulation in Europe, huge investments in China, and today, because the geopolitical situation internationally is much more complicated than in the era of a quiet globalization we knew until a few years ago, all the green transition is made much more difficult and complicated. So we must have a clear view, I would say a rational view, avoiding polarization and trying to go to the goals. What are the goals? The goals is that we must know that we live in a world of peopled by 8 billion humans. When I was born, imagine we were 2.7. Only my lifespan, my personal lifespan. And of course, it's an emerging country, what is called the global south, that the numbers, the figure will grow. And I give you also, I put here another small question. You see, Africa. Africa is big. Africa is about to be 2 billion people. Africa has great desert, great areas where you can install renewables. Do you know how much solar energy is realized in Africa? Just to make an example, would pick up another country. For instance, in Europe, for instance, Netherlands. All Africa produces less than half part of solar energy produced in Netherlands. So there is a narrative. We will have hydrogen through renewables made in Africa because there are so huge farmland spaces, deserts. But it doesn't happen. To make it happen, you need a grid, an electric grid. You need conservation of energy, so you need the batteries. And you must ask, or you build it, or you must ask to people who builds batteries. Today, China. So it's absolutely a geopolitical issues. And to give you an idea of the problem in Africa of electricity, a standard US fridge consumes 3.5 times the yearly electrical consumption of an average African fridge in your home. Only this frigorifero needs 3.5 times all the energy an average citizen of Africa uses today. So why Mr. Rutelli, who came here with his electric car, is giving us all these very frightening perspectives and problems? Because we need to understand if we want to act. We need to share if we want to act together. To give you an example, in China last year, 9.4 million electric vehicles were sold. In Italy, 100,000. Next year in China, this figure will rise from 9.4 to 11.5 in 2024. So that's the forecast. So in China, you got more solar capacity than all the world combined. But in the last 10 years, more than half carbon consumed at the global level was consumed in China. Why that? Because if there is a blackout in a city, there are two consequences. The responsible for the local Communist Party is fired. The second one is that a couple of carbon factories are built to avoid blackout. So the transition is difficult, the transition is complex, and we have also a great enemy, I consider. The big enemy is greenwashing. Because if you look at the ads in TV or in the radios or on the internet, you see that everybody is sustainable. Everybody is green. Everybody is very sensitive on these green issues. But the European Commission made an inquiry 2 years ago, and they have seen that more than 50% of these advertising were incorrect. And absolutely not true that this sustainability process in production, in trade, in transportation, etc., where these goals were achieved. It was not so, but you say so, you declare so, you obtain some consensus and support, but it is not necessarily true. So my conclusion in this panorama, where I do confirm my opinion, we must involve the large majority of people, ordinary people. And of course, if saying that climate change doesn't exist, it's not real. It's a real, great problem we're going to have, and we're going to trespass this threshold that we put on the table, plus 1.5 2 degrees centigrades. That will bring great problems. You know that some island in the Pacific Ocean already bought some lands, continental territories, because they know that in 15, 20 years' time, their island will not exist anymore. Because the rising of waters will bring the need to leave these places in the world. It's real. The data I gave you about the Arctic seas, so easy to see. Not only the real fact that we had the hottest year ever on record last year, and the hottest year on record was the 22. And August was the hottest August, like July was the hottest July. And the difference in many parts of the world are absolutely dramatic. You know that in Indonesia, Jakarta, the city capital, will be abandoned. It's droning. There is a new city capital under construction in Indonesia named upon Nusantara. I can continue for a while, giving concrete data and realities. Of course, we do say, how long will be my life? How long can I act? What can I do? I'm a single guy. I have no power. I have no possibilities. It's too complicated. So we do delay. And solutions are far away. So my conclusion is that we need to act while the government discuss, of course, in our personal experience, that is very important. We must work on jobs, because we can explain people that the green transition and the responsible transition, that will be, of course, not a revolution in 1, 2, 3. It's impossible. I told you how difficult it is today in Europe, how difficult it's in other parts of the world. But we must explain that good jobs are there in a rational transition. Just to give you a figure, an example, in UK, they got 3,000 engineers able to make the installation of heat pump to reach the target on emission reductions. They have a mandatory reduction. They need between 5,000 and 7,000 more engineers per year. It's jobs, it's concrete perspective. They must be good jobs, and they must give good results. I could give you so many data and figures. I spoke too much already, but to give you also two other examples, we should and could act on some emissions, for instance, the HFC, hydrofluorocarbons, I guess, abolishing the sort of gas, part of some industrial processes, can reduce by 0.4 degrees end of this century the average temperature in the world. We can transform industrial sector, act now with positive results. Acting against methane, flaring and venting. These are technical expressions. When you see, just to give an example, only in China you have 100,000 old carbon mines, overwhelmingly abandoned, emitting methane out of control. Because it happens also in some part of the US, where the shale oil or shale gas extraction are abandoned for economic reason. Anyway, you have to stop the emission, and che rilasciano, they release, they emit. It's not difficult. It's not so costly. So, for instance, reducing methane emission in the oil and gas production and distribution is absolutely decisive. Why that? Because methane is a gas that is 80 times more powerful than CO2, and has a lifespan of only 20 years, while CO2 has a lifespan of centuries and remains in the atmosphere, remains there. You know, perfectly understand what when we call effetto serra, greenhouse, that means that radiation from the sun remains trapped somehow through this gas, and the temperature in our atmosphere grows. That's the substance of the issue. So we must eliminate, we must use the nature for absorption of emission. We must use technology and innovation to do that. We need a professional able to master that and to do that in I hope in your future work, activity and sensitivity. So this was my introduction. I wanted to scare you, but I didn't want to scare you. I wanted to involve you in a process that is complicated and that needs professionals, need people with open mind, clear view, not an ideological point of view, but a concrete point of view to help solution in creating a new technological solution, new good jobs, a participation by the public opinion, because without that, they will feel that all the decision about climate change and reducing the emission are top-down. We hate that. Why do they decide for me? I'm not confident that will reach a real outcome. So the issue is a new generation of people who is able to study, loves our earth, want to live better, want to avoid a world that is not livable, not only in small island in the Pacific Sea or in Greenland, but everywhere in the world with a common view, but pragmatic solution through good ideas and a shared action. I would say, starting from your wonderful country, your wonderful America. We do love. We are confident. You changed the world. You rescued we, the Italians, after the Second World War. Your ancestors came here, risked their lives, came here. We had a very difficult situation in 1944. And some people entered in this city from America and other allied countries, making Italy a better place to live. So we are thankful, grateful, and we love America also for this. Grazie.
Nice.
Well, yeah.
Shall we stimulate some?
Yeah, some questions. Yeah, I think that just out of joke and to release a little bit the speech, he's ready to run from the U.S. presidency. Yeah. So yes, please, Professor Wicks.
You need to come here on the microphone.
You can sit down. Ti vuoi sedere?
They're applauding because Fabio is recording for the
YouTube. First, thank you very much. I enjoyed your talk. I'm Rob Wicks. I'm on the faculty of the University of Arkansas at Fayetteville, but I have the pleasure of being on faculty here right now. If we could bring up the map here again for a minute.
I can cancel if you agree with all this.
No, I want to see it. I want to bring it up again.
So do you want me to cancel this?
No. I just would like you to bring it up on the screen.
because
here.
I can take away the red sign.
No, I like everything there. Yeah. Okay, this is this was a very impressive talk about the geopolitical nature and the global nature of all of this. And I knew much of this. I didn't know a good bit of it, you know, and it's very complex, as you say. While you were talking, I was thinking, how can we break this down into simple pieces that people can do? And today, we only got here on Sunday. We were supposed to be here a few weeks ago, but visa issues came up and so forth. And today was the first day I met my students, who I'm going to be here with for the semester. And we were talking about with one of the students, a couple of students, we were talking about the bins, the recycle bins in Italy, the colored bins. And, they asked about that. And I said, well, can't you get people to think about placing things to make it easier to recycle? Very small step, in a way, Now, on a bigger step, when we were coming over here on the plane, Delta goes from Atlanta to here, and planes are very inefficient in terms of transporting people. They use a lot of energy and they produce a lot of heat and everything else. And one of the little ads that Delta had was, while I was watching, we plan to be carbon neutral by 2050. And I thought, well, that's a pretty good thing. And that reminded me of something that Al Gore said a number of years ago, when someone asked him, well, if planes are so inefficient, we tend to think of buses as being an efficient way of getting people around, metros, that sort of thing. But planes are not. They consume an enormous amount of energy. And they said, during that little flight over, they said, well, we're going to be carbon neutral within about 25 years. And I said, that's very impressive. How do you do that? Now, a number of years ago, someone asked Al Gore that question. And Al Gore said, don't worry about that for now. Let's think about some of the things you were talking about, like more electric cars, more efficiency, little steps. And I guess with the, in thinking about it with the students, and I look at this and I say, man, that is really complicated. How do you solve that? I think the only way to start is with these little steps about getting people thinking about the bins and recycling and, adjusting to smaller cars. I mean, in the United States, everyone has a giant car that gets about 3 feet to the gallon, and so forth. Just in terms of like teaching me to teach the students, how should I teach our students to take the small step to get to the bigger step?
Easy question.
I think you see, I can tell you what some in my generation did, thinking that it was possible to work together and act through political responsibility or creating associations, not only acting personally. I think that is the only way to have a solution, meaning sharing goals and acting together, frankly. Of course, it's also a concrete issue because reusing and recycling will be absolutely indispensable. For instance, what we are doing with that, we throw it away every time we buy a new one. That won't happen anymore in the future, because you know that if there will be, I hope not, a war regarding Taiwan, That will be because of chips, semiconductors. Because in Taiwan, there is the biggest factory in the world. And somebody told the Chinese government that if Taiwan is reconducted to Beijing, this factory, without that factory, our phones, our cars, our computers, our everything will be shut down. This is the great factory semiconductors in Taipei, in Taiwan. So we are integrated. We must improve our capacity, dear professor, to recycle and reuse. And that happens also for more complicated technological machine. We will learn to reuse, not only to recycle. But until today, we wasted everything. We destroyed everything. And also, it is an ecological disaster. Give you an example. The fashion industry, I don't know how many of those ladies, girls, use Shine platform. You don't. In Italy, it's I discovered my daughter bought dozen of articles. I told them, but you crazy? How much did you spend? Oh no, it's 6 euros, 9 euros for shoes, $5 for a suit, etc. Today, the problem with Shine, that is a platform bringing very, very, very inexpensive dresses from China, is that they arrive through cargoes, flights, because the problem of the Gulf of Persico, of the Red Sea, is pushing to air transportation of these products. If you go to Côte d'Ivoire in Africa, there are great beaches completely overwhelmed by these products. Because it's simple. If you go in Chile, desert of Atacama, the desert today, professor, is a great, come dice, discarica, a dump place for Shane products, fast fashion. So being conscious of that, I think it's very important, and we may act. It's fantastic. This jacket has more than 20 years. I'm very happy. Maybe 30. Maybe 30. So my wife says I'm stupid. She's right, eh? No, she's right, maybe. Anyway, this issue must be explained, must be, and maybe if your university arranges a visit in Atacama Desert to visit the dump of my daughter défilé, that could work.
Well, thank you very much.
Yes, please, Isabel, come here.
Hello. Hi. Thank you so much for coming to talk here. I was really interested, at least coming to study in Italy, knowing that the education system is treated differently here, I believe. This is a socialist education system, as well as, so you've adopted a more, as well as many other countries in Europe, socialist approach to shared knowledge and such, and that moves into how much accessibility there is to higher education professions, I suppose. So when you spoke of creating jobs, like substantial jobs such as engineering or architecture jobs, to provide the necessary workforce for the changing landscape in the move towards sustainability. I was hoping you could speak on how in America we don't really share that perspective, and maybe how to change, like how the change came about here to be more of a public right to education.
Thank you. I share. I would not give a, let's say, a definition for my perspective. It's anyway, it's a responsible, free word series of opinion. I think that education and training are the most important thing to do today. Personally, my dedication is mainly for that. Today in Italy, I chair the Italian Film and Audiovisual Industry Association. And we created an academy to train in for new jobs, for new professions necessary. In my city, I'm not in a political position because I did it for a long time, and I think there is a moment when, that is my opinion, you stop and you do other things in your life. I did it with passion and dedication. I've been elected many times by ordinary people and so on. But today I spend some time in training people of your age to be part of the public space, teaching. But all the teachers do that for free. Do that for that is called Scuola di Servizio Civico, Civic Service School. Then I am working on professional basis with a small company in sustainability training in various sectors with universities and also sustainability managers. That is very important in various sectors. So I think that when somebody, you're too young, you must be trained, you must study, you must cooperate in the education you receive. I think that when you will have finished your it's in 70 years' time, your working life, teaching others or helping others to learn is the most beautiful and important thing to do in life. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
There was another question? Yes? Okay. Hello? Yes. All right, cool. So in such a big city like Rome, how do you go about balancing emissions with the crucial need for transportation? And what part might bicycles play in the future of that?
Thank you very much. I can tell you what I've done when I was the mayor. I built 300 kilometers of railway, creating new tramways and public service. new highways. I don't know if you came from the airport. The airport highway, I built it because it didn't exist before, but I built new stations, railway. It's more difficult to build underground system in Rome because you got under your feet a city of 1 million people in the 2nd century Christian era. That's remarkable. So 1 million people lived here. And so if you dig, you find something, some remnant of that. So you must build an underground, 30 meters underground. So that's complicated for security reasons because you must give access, security, exits, etc., etc. The second thing I have done is I changed the regulation, the urban planning regulation, and we safeguarded 2/3 of our territory. If you ask me if I do prefer Los Angeles, where is Hollywood and so many good friends of mine, or New York, I do prefer the compact city. Because, of course, when you got a pandemic, compact city is difficult. Many people meet, but a compact city is much better than a dispersed city eating so much land, and etc. When mayor, my administration, we decided to safeguard 2/3 of the city territory with agricultural or green destination. So if you get out from the center, I said it in Italian metric, not American, even if miles are very similar to miles, ancient Roman miles, but today we're talking kilometers. But anyway, we safeguarded 63,000 hectares of territory not to be built. I think that should be used much better today also for agricultural purposes. That would be very interesting. And that should be used in terms of when I was in the government, I made a rule to allow that in natural parks you can have agricultural activities, not just preservation, but also good management of sustainable products and activities and people working there, etc. So there must be a balance between preservation and sustainable exploitment, let's say. Anyway, what I did is building new modern transportation system. The situation was not bad at that time, and preserving from new constructions the surrounding area, and also building new architectures, because I had the privilege of building the new auditorium of the city when you were going to have a concert or a film in an auditorium that is beautiful. Very close to here, you continue on the Lungotevere, along the Tiber River. There is the Arapacis, Consuelo quoted that, Arapacis Museum. It was very complicated. I asked an American architect, Richard Meyer, to do that. It was very complicated to do that. We did it. And because I think we must build contemporary architecture also in ancient context. Of course, that needs to have a good design, sensitive design, adequate projects, and I think it's it's doable, it must be done. So new architecture, modernization, while you preserve ancient places. You make it. I give an example, another example. In front of Arapashis, you got the other great tomb. I spoke before. In front of here, you got the Mausoleo di Hadrian, the emperor tomb, Castel Sant'Angelo, the castle. If you go, let's say as you go north, you got the August tomb mausoleum. Doesn't exist anymore. Why that? Because like Mausoleo di Adriano was transformed in a castle to protect the Pope from barbaric invasion. Not always. It didn't work. It didn't work. It didn't work always. For instance, if you go, there are gardens surrounding Castel Sant'Angelo, and they were paludi? Swamps. That's very strange. Why that? Because it was to protect the Pope and his family. Many popes died for malaria, because also mosquitoes loved this situation. So self-defense was not always so efficient. But anyway, this was a castle. The Pope, when was under threat, used to go there. While Mausoleo di August Mausoleum, in front of Arapashis Museum, designed by Richard Mayer. Richard Mayer is a great architect who made the modern art museum in Barcelona, a wonderful museum in Frankfurt, and of course the Getty Center in Malibu, Los Angeles. He also made in the peripheric area, also during my tenure, Tre Teste, a beautiful church devoted to Christ. Anyway, in front of this museum, you got Mausoleo di Augusto. Mausoleo di Augusto are naked walls, to be very frank. Why that? Because Mussolini destroyed the theater that was built inside, because a city is a constant transformation. So the tomb of Hadrian became a castle, defensive castle. The tomb of August and his family became a theater. Even corridas were made. I don't know how to translate, but it's a no. But also, in fact, also in American West, you got the rodeos. There were rodeos inside. Then a theater with 5,000 people attending. Mussolini destroyed that because he wanted to be secretly buried along August, the emperor. So he started. I asked his archaeologists to dig, but they found nothing, because the barbarian have really arrived to stolen everything. So he was deceived. And if you go there, that's my personal opinion, that would be a wonderful place to have a virtual visit with augmented reality. So a marriage between the ancient remnants and new technologies there in Mausoleo di Augusto, because the real monument you see is somehow poor due to this disruption. But better to maintain a theater inside the ancient tomb of Emperor August, where thousands of people could attend. So architecture and urbanism are transformation, not only a picture of the past. something must be absolutely preserved, full stop. You cannot put a skyscraper on Palatino or Foro Romano, of course, but you can integrate if there is good architecture and good transformation. And this is a good example also when it failed, that gives us an example of how not to do. Vi mandate via? No.
Any other question?
No, they have seen there is something to eat there. So
Anyway, thank you very much for your time. Really enjoyed the speech. I